Okay, I'm here to discuss the DEF heat trace system for Pilot, and of course you can find the installation manuals at pentairthermal.com. It's listed on the front of the controller, Pentair, and you'll have data sheets and installation manuals there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this display board I have, because this is basically the parts that we're going to have for the DEF heat trace. The cable in this case is water cable. The cable that you're going to see on site is going to be the Teflon coated or fluoropolymer, the chemical resistant cable for the DEF. And as I go through this, I'm going to discuss a couple of different problems you may encounter in the field as I discuss each unit. So you got power in from your power distribution panel to the controller. Most of the controllers are located in the office. Then of course we've got the power that goes out to the canopy system, where it will connect to a right-click PC, a power connection kit, and then the cable will feed on to the pipe. The Ravanco pipe's got conduit chases that the cable feeds through, but in the areas where you have a elbow or a T, the cable should be taped tightly to the pipe, and it should have aluminum tape over it to help disperse the heat and hold the cable as tight as it can in those weaker areas. For the power kit, again, this is 208 volts running through this system, so this should be a licensed electrician who's doing any kind of electrical repairs. But these kits, if the system's on, you can check them, the power through them, by putting meter probes into the back of these test ports. So right here, right behind that plate, are two little test ports. If I turn the system on and I turn my voltage meter on, it tells me that I've got 108 volts on it's a 110 volt system, but I'm pulling 108 volts. And that would be true or ring true for this kit, or even the T kits. The T kits also have test ports behind them. So if you were to be looking at the system and you had power, or you knew you were getting heat on the first three dispensers but not on the next three, the electrician could come through here with turning with the system on, put those meter probes in, and identify the location exactly where the problem rests. So you may also get a low load out of the power kit. The power kit, a low load means that we're sending power to the ray click, but we're not detecting, the controller's not detecting any power on the cable. So you would have a low load alarm, and most likely it's going to be in your ray click connector, the PC, or it might be in the first T kit. So it's going to give you a low load alarm for anything less than 1 amp recognized by the controller. Where each T kit's going to be, it should be resting right on top of the pipe. You don't want it up in the air like this, and don't want it sideways. We want it resting just like this. It's made to shield the rain, and it's sealed with a gasket on the inside, but it needs to be mounted as the directions tell us to, which is flush on the pipe. And then also, these gaskets on the end have to be tightened because rainwater can work its way back in here, creating a GFI fail, by arcing the cable or creating an arc situation. And we always recommend that you use channel locks to tighten it down. You should see rubber coming out of the end with that gasket securing and tight on that cable. So that's another issue you may see. Another GFI fail that we see is that the end seals might not be on. An end seal is going to come with a ray click PC kit, and it's going to come with a T kit. So every time you have the T kit, the power feeds in, it goes out to the next dispenser, and of course one of the ends is going to drop to the dispenser unit itself below. Well, there should be an end seal on the end of that line. If there's not an end seal, then of course there can be an arc situation between the ground wire and the bus lines. End seal connection is very simple. It's just trimming off 1 inch of the outer jacket and trimming the braid, the ground back, and sliding the end seal cap on. And so that's another issue you may see. So if you're getting a GFI fail on the system, you're going to check for water inside the T kits. You're going to check the end seals are on the line. And if that still doesn't work, then there could be a cut or a nick in the line, which that's a usually a pretty big or a larger problem, because then you're going to need the electrician to run a megger test, a continuity test, and a capacitance test, which of course is listed in the installation manual, because he's going to have to actually find the location by running some calculations to see and detect exactly where they think that break is. So that's something else that you may see. If we had an issue where the ray click, where you didn't think you were getting power down the line, the manufacturer says these can only be used one time. However, I will tell you that through our experience, we have used them or remade a connection if we felt like it wasn't tapped well. A lot of times when they're tightening these screws down with this T20 Torx, if they tighten down one side and then they don't tighten down the other one until after they're fully down, the plate will come down at an angle, and there's prongs on the bottom that tap that line. If they miss that, then of course the energy's not going to go out the line. So to check that, I would basically loosen this all the way. I would also, a little plastic clip right here, and if I release that clip, it releases the tension off of it. And then of course we need to make sure the end is also loosened. And then I can take this cable out and actually inspect it and see that those prongs are tapping this line. Another thing is, of course, sometimes they don't push the cable all the way in. If I open this controller or this component up, I can see the cable all the way flush at the end right here. You should be able to see the cable here, and it's plastic, so you can visibly see that the cable is pushed all the way in. Sometimes that's not the case. And to get it out, I would simply wiggle this back and forth a little bit, and then I can slide it out. And then I can inspect the line and look at it and see that, yes, I've indeed tapped the line exactly where I need to. So that's the ray click components. Now I'm going to look at the controller for a minute. And so with the controller, we got a little shield on here, and I can remove that shield. And so what we have is we have line in, A and B, line out, C and D. There's a schematic on the inside of the door face again. You have terminal blocks over here. 20, 21, and 22 are your RTD sensor wires. Another common failure you'll see is a TS fail. TS fail means most likely these wires are mixed up. The two reds go in 20 and 21, and the white goes in 22, which is white's your common. And if they're extending it to the outside of the building, a lot of times they get the wires crossed. So that would be something that you would be looking for right there. And if you're getting a false reading, they might not have used a 100 ohm shielded wire, 22 gauge wire. And so if they use something that's inferior, you may be getting a faulty reading. You'll also see a lot of times 14 and 15 connected, which is your dry alarm contacts out, and there's a lot of units that are connected to the Vita route, and that's where you would see those coming out and sending an alarm notice so that corporate knew. Up here at the top you'll see shift, test, enter, and back, and above that you'll see alarm, monitor, and config, which is configuration. If I want to get into any of these above, the alarm, the monitor, the configuration mode, I have to hit the shift button and then one of those buttons. So for instance, all of our directions say to disable the low ambient temperature alarm. The reason why is it's a nuisance alarm, and with hundreds of stores, we don't want an alarm letting us know every time it's 35 degrees. So what I do is I hit shift and test. Now I'm in configuration, or shift and enter, and now I can go down. And I think it's about 6, and there's low TS equals E and A. So if I want to disable that, I just hit enter. Now it's flashing. Hit the down arrow key, you see DIS, which means disabled. I hit enter, and so now the low ambient temperature alarm's disabled. If I were to go up about 6, 7, 8, there's an auto cycle feature. We suggest that you turn this to enabled because we would like to test the system throughout the year, so we're not waiting until winter time to see if there's an issue. So I'm going to turn that on. It's flashing DIS. I hit E and A. I hit enter. I can go down one, and it says interval. I can change that to 240 hours, which is 10 days. And so if I hit enter on that, I'm just going to slide over here, change that to 240. So every 10 days now, this system is set up to test. If I want to get to the home screen, all I have to do is hit the back arrow key, and now I'm there. So T equals 64, that's my temperature. SP equals 40 set point. I equals is whatever my amperage draw is. When you come to the site, if you just need to test the unit, you just hit test. And now you can see that this alarm output light has been lit up. So now the system's on. If we were in alarm notice, which this status block also has alarm there, I'm gonna disconnect the RTD sensor to force an alarm. And if we do that, then here in just a second you're going to see the alarm light flashing. And so when the alarm light goes, there it goes, and you can see it's a bright red. It's just constantly going to be flashing. Now I'm going to show you how to clear the alarm. Let's say in the field that you had a GFI trip, a fail, temperature sensor fail, or low load. You made the correction. Then you're going to go back to the controller unit, and I'm going to hook this back up. To clear the alarm and retest the system, I'm going to hit shift and test. Now I'm in alarm mode. It tells me my failure is on my temperature sensor. I'm going to hit enter, and it says reset. So to reset it, I can either hit yes, but I'm going to hit down 2 to reset all. If there were any other alarms, I'll clear them all out. So now it says no alarms. So then I hit the back arrow key. I'm at the home screen. I've made my fix in the field. Now I can retest the system by just hitting the test button. So that's basically it. I hope this has helped you understand the system. It's a very simple system, and as long as it's wired correctly, it should really give you no issue. So thanks.